Hello, everyone. Good morning. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes to reach out to each of you and talk a little bit about what's been going on in the markets. Of course, they were down substantially yesterday, and it's looking like we're heading into another down day today. And give you a couple of pointers of things that I'm thinking about as it relates to your portfolios and your strategy. So, first item on the list of things to remember that we've planned for this. One of the reasons that we spend so much time talking about your future plans, your budget, your retirement, your sabbatical, is that we've always focused on planning for upcoming cash flows, right? And what that means is that your near-term spending and withdrawal needs from your investment portfolios are not invested in the volatile stock market, right? Instead, they're invested in lower risk investments like bonds and cash-like instruments. That should give you a fair amount of confidence that regardless of what happens in the markets from here, that you will not be a forced seller of stock at this point or really at any point going forward, right? We have the tools in our tool chest to raise cash from investments that are not stock in order to meet your anticipated withdrawal needs. Number two, I want you to remember that for each and every one of you, your portfolios are diversified. The headlines in all of the major publications are, of course, talking about the broad U.S. stock markets, like the S&P 500. But your portfolio is not all in U.S. stock. You have other investments as well. You have a portion of your portfolio, for example, invested in international stock. International stock has done relatively well compared to US stock since the beginning of the year. And you have portions of your portfolio in diversified bonds and cash, right? And we talked about, the portion of your portfolio that's not in stocks to meet your spending needs just a moment ago. Another reason that you have a portion of your portfolio in investments that aren't stock, like diversified bonds and cash, is that gives us optionality as I'm managing the portfolios to do what's called rebalancing, right? I always give you all the guidance that we want to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. This is definitely a time that investors are fearful. And so we can rebalance the portfolio by essentially selling a small portion of the bond side of the portfolio and buying stocks which are essentially on sale right now. So remember, you've got a diversified portfolio and we've got optionality in how we manage the portfolio, not only to meet your spending needs, but also to take advantage of a time when stock prices are on sale. The third thing I want you to remember is that our US stock allocation is broad and diversified and focused on the largest and most successful companies in the United States, right? Well, there is a fair amount of uncertainty right now, and I'm not trying to be a Pollyanna and pretend that everything's good. There is uncertainty. The leaders of these great American companies are people that we have confidence in to be able to navigate these rough waters and steward their companies through any sort of change, right? The job of a good manager, a good CEO of these companies is to navigate the changes that are going on, the tariffs right now, right? And figure out the best strategy to help their companies react and change to the new policies, right? Not only to insulate profit margins and to protect their company's cash flow, right? But also conceivably to make good long-term decisions about taking advantage of these new policies and using them in ways that benefit their shareholders. So while we don't know what is going to come next, the CEOs of these great American companies are stewards of shareholder capital, and I believe that they will do a good job navigating this uncertainty. The last thing I want you to remember is that the volatility that we are experiencing in the stock market right now is very much being driven by policy, right? Economic policy risk has two sides of the coin when it comes to volatility. What we typically think of and what we've experienced yesterday and will experience today is downside volatility. These trading days that get the extra large font on the front page of the paper because they are so negative. But policy risk has another side as well. The other side of the policy risk is upside policy risk. What we've experienced this week is an implementation of a new policy that the stock market perceives as negative. What I think might happen as we look forward is as negotiations get underway, we may very well see modifications to these tariffs, right? So implementation negative, modification positive, right? As an example. Another example would be looking at the stock market and economic activity. We may see some downside, right, from tariffs as we start to see how companies and consumers react. But there's also the possibility for some sort of stimulus. Now, how that would look, I really couldn't begin to say. Some examples might be the Federal Reserve may lower interest rates at a faster than anticipated rate, making borrowing less expensive potentially. Another stimulus that we've talked about that could very well happen before the end of this year would be some sort of additional change in tax policy, right? That favors U.S. companies or potentially leaves more money in the pocket of the U.S. consumer. So expecting the trading to only reflect negative news is very human. I think we all feel that way from time to time, that there's a lot of negativity and concern, but please remember that there almost inevitably will be big upswing days, right? And we don't want to miss those big recovery days in the market. They are some of the most critical days for long-term returns. So please keep these things in mind. Lastly, I know you all know this, but please remember that these elements, right? Sticking with our long-term asset allocation, being diversified, planning for cash flows. This is what good financial planning is all about. And it's why I'm here every day and especially right now. So if you want to have a conversation, if you have concerns, please reach out to me. It's what I'm here for, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. I hope you all are having a wonderful Friday and you have a good weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.